Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome to The Real. As I said there in the opening intro there, welcome on into The Real. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. And yeah, excited for today's show. Awesome show today. I'm excited about it because I think it's going to be really good for people out there struggling with anxiety. The topic at hand today. I'm also going to break down the back half of the show some Evan Mobley film for my basketball fans out there, Cavs fans. Kind of some Evan Mobley film here as we get closer to the playoffs. Hard to believe we're already almost to the playoffs, but you know, he's been a big topic about, you know, what his potential could be, how can they get involved more in the offense, you know, what is the ceiling and all this. So I'm going to break down a couple clips later on about how I think they can get him more involved in different ways in the offense. And so I'll get into that. But the first half of today's show, like I said, I'm going to get into some anxiety support here. And I saw this video, yesterday from my man, the anxiety guy, Dennis Simsek. Shout out to Dennis. Everybody was one of my mentors and a guy that really helped me, you know, get out of a hole just by listening to his practices and using his programs, listening to his videos every day. If you haven't subscribed to the anxiety guy yet, go subscribe to him. Awesome channel. And so I listened to this video the other day, and best anxiety support there is out there, period. And I believe that. So in this video the other day, though, or yesterday I watched rather, he's talking about how people with anxiety oftentimes make decisions based on their feelings, and how oftentimes we allow we make decisions based off our emotions, and we allow our emotions and our feelings, they're both tied together, to dictate what we do, right? And we start to get caught up in the symptoms, we start to get caught up in the intrusive thoughts, in the thinking patterns, you know, the mental movies we play in our head, how we think the situation will end, the worst case scenario, right? I've been there. And it kind of reminded me, listening to this, was what ultimately helped me take off from my anxiety and get back out again and get back out to doing normal things in life was when I stopped getting caught up in my emotions and stopped aligning my emotional state, whether I was feeling good, whether I was feeling sad, whether I was feeling angry, whether I was feeling depressed, whether I was feeling whatever, frustrated. I used to allow that to dictate my decision making, whether I would leave the house or not, whether I would go to a family gathering or not. Everything was based off my emotions and my feelings, right? And we see this a lot nowadays in society. Everything's based off emotions, everything's based off of feelings. But I don't think that's your emotions and your feelings don't have intellect. You know, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be high. It's okay to be low. That's just part of life. You know, and I think oftentimes too, I heard a gentleman who I followed for a while now, we're friends online, is Aaron Cartwright. And he broke down a video one time too, talking about how, you know, it's okay for your system rather to go be high and low. That's how it balances it out. I think oftentimes people with anxiety, especially, that find themselves constantly feel like they're going backwards or getting, you know, having anxiety attacks every day, or feel like they're just kind of constantly in a loop, is because they try to force how they want to feel. They try to force the emotion they want to have. You know, we think we have to be happy all the time and we have to feel great all the time, but sometimes part of life is just part of life. You go up, you go down, but that's kind of it's all a balancing act. It's okay to just be in the middle, to be neutral, and to accept however you feel, but that doesn't dictate what you do, especially as an anxiety sufferer. And all you anxiety sufferers out there know what I'm talking about. And so But again, when I heard this video the other day, it really reminded me um, just of that and how that's helped me come a long way. If I one day I wake up feeling frustrated or I feel kind of down about something or I'm thinking whatever, it doesn't stop me from doing what I'm going to do. I'm leaving the house. I'm going to throughout my day the way I plan to. Um, I'm going to sit here and do this podcast today. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go meet with those friends or family. Nothing's going to stop me anymore from how I feel and my whatever emotional state I'm in. It's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. But a lot of anxiety sufferers do that because we get caught up in the mental movies. We get caught up in the, you know, the conclusions we made in our mind, which is a lot of times false about the worst case scenario, what this could lead to, X, Y, and Z. And so here's the video from Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy. Again, go subscribe, where he really breaks it down here.
A more than anxiety moment for you. Are you ready? All decisions that you make are dependent on the emotional state that you are in. What that means is that you're not really afraid of that symptom, bothered by that intrusive idea, or believe in future catastrophe. It is simply a result of being in a very well-formed emotional state of fear. And once your emotional state shifts from fear to indifference, trust, faith, or playfulness, your decisions around what these old elements of anxiety really mean changes as well.
So think about what he said there. When we shift our emotional states, the way we perceive our anxiety changes as well. And I can attest to that firsthand, like I said. When I have moments now, if I feel emotionally, maybe I feel bad emotionally, maybe like I said, maybe I feel sad or I get a little angry, pissed off for a little bit. I know how to shift my emotions now. And a lot of times the way to shift what's helped me shift my emotions is by doing the opposite of the things I used to avoid. So for instance, if I'm feeling kind of sad, I don't feel like leaving the house, I don't feel like going to somewhere that I need to go, I do it anyways. But not only do I do it, I don't force myself to do it. I don't just be like, okay, I gotta like suck it up and tough it out. No, I allow myself to find the positives in what I'm about to do. Even if I'm just going to the store, running to the store real quick and coming back. And that's where I was in the past. I wouldn't leave the house. What caused my agoraphobia because I was so caught up in my emotions that if I was feeling bad, there was no chance I would even want to walk around the corner. Just because I was afraid, because it starts off with the emotion, right? you're upset or angry about something, and then it would turn into the symptoms. I would start to feel my body would start shooting, adrenaline, and which is normal what it does. And the symptoms, I would start to feel the jitters or the, if I was angry, I'd start to feel really tense, like I just want to like grab something. My neck would get really tense. I start to get a little dizzy. I start to feel hot. And then I would say, okay, now I start worrying about ailments now. What if this leads to this? What if this happens? Now we start playing the mental movies in our head. And so I'm definitely not leaving the house now. That's what caused it. But what helped me was when I said, okay, you know what? Nothing's ever happened. Number one. But also number two, how can I change this emotion? How can I shift my emotions? And this was very key for me in my healing journey because I learned that from Dennis himself in the program. And I also learned from my counselor at the time, who really helped challenge me there emotionally and gave me some great tools. One of them I'm going to share today. On how, he said, hey, Joe, how can we shift your emotions? How can we shift your emotional state? What can we control, right? What can you do to help yourself feel better? How can you empower yourself? And that was very key to me, that word, empowerment. How can I empower myself rather than allowing my emotions and feelings to lead me? I'm being led by that rather than me leading it and telling it what we're going to do. Right? And so that's what I started to do. And so sometimes if you're really like where I was, start by doing stuff around the house. Go to a Bible study. Do your own Bible study. Start praying. Call somebody and see how they're doing. Send somebody a text. a loving act, right? That's the two things I learned was a loving action, which is either praying for somebody, a loving action or whatever. And the second one would be mindfulness. And mindfulness can be doing a meditation, going outside in a nice environment for a walk, going to work out, whatever takes your mind in the external. A loving action, mindfulness. Those are the two things that really helped me. And once I learned all of this, my agoraphobia basically went out the window because I learned that like I said, when I learned that I could take control and have that empowerment, the anxiety started to lessen, and I started to give it less respect. And I no longer started to fear certain situations. I don't fear the situations as I used to anymore. I'm not as sensitized to them. I'm not as fearful about them. I'm not as I'm in grave danger or something like I used to think. You start to see things for what they really are. But my whole world just started to slow down. And when my world started to slow down, I started to see things for what they really are, and I started to see the more bigger picture. Started to see things more clearly. And that in turn allowed me to do more, have more fun, and enjoy my life more. I see now, I'm like, gee, I don't have to be confined to this life anymore. I didn't have to be confined to that house. I didn't have to be confined to my emotions, whether they're good or bad. I don't have to be controlled by my anxiety anymore. I can go out and live my life freely. I can let go. I don't have to do this anymore. And so, again, love what he said there. And I think a lot of it too is just two words. It's called accept. Accept how you're feeling and redirect it. And that was it for me. Whatever you're anxious about, if you're anxious about an upcoming event that's down the road maybe, or whatever, maybe you've got stuff going on in your life right now, it makes you anxious, and I think this too. We talk a lot about, emotional states and symptoms and how to calm down and all this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what's going to cure your anxiety, what's going to heal your anxiety, help you move forward in your life. Not that you won't have anxiety, because that's part of us. God built that within us. It's good to have that mechanism in us to help us with our instincts in certain situations in life, right? But it's our relationship with it is what's important. How do I make a healthy relationship with it? And I think you can do all those things. Like I said, we could talk about symptoms all day. We could talk about how to calm down. We could talk about all these different things. But at the end of the day, deep down inside what causes your anxiety. Maybe you haven't figured it out yet, but you probably have an idea. For instance, it's not really about you fear your health. It's not really about, that's what you're really anxious about. Like, for instance, here, let me give an example. Let me clean that up. So for me, for instance, right, when I was in my really bad anxiety days, I feared my health. I was very anxious about my, had health anxiety, agoraphobic, wouldn't leave the house at times, or, agoraphobia is avoidance of certain situations or interactions with certain people, groups of people, right? And so I was caught up in that for a while, right? Worried about the symptoms and that I'm okay, reassurance seeking, proving to myself that it's safe to go out again. But ultimately, what freed me for good was, and this goes to the emotional side of it, was what I just started to be honest with myself and let it out to people that slowly let it out to people over time. And I would say, what am I really fearful of? And what it was for me was when I was 5 years old, I saw my dad at the time had a lot going on, was running a business. He saw his dad. If you go watch my dad's episode he did back at Christmas, he kind of explains a little bit. My dad was kind of going through a little hypochondria a little bit. And he grew up in a home with one of his parents were born ill. So he saw some things happen. And, obviously you see your parent go through something like that. And that's what it was for me. I saw my dad. So when I was 5 years old one day, I remember he was getting put on some medicine. He was going to the doctors. Didn't really know what to do. He was very hypochondriac at the time. And none of us really knew what to do. I was 5. My mom didn't really know. My grandmother didn't really know. And he was just very worried, and because his worst fear was not being able to provide for his family. And I remember one day in particular, he just had a bad panic attack, and my mom and I weren't home. We were down the street, and I remember we came home, and the ambulance was there, and he was kind of freaking out. My grandmother came down, and everybody was real nervous. And now a 5-year-old seeing all this, right? And so, at 5 years old, I interpreted this whole scene, and he was fine. I remember even the guy even told me, the paramedic was like, your dad's fine, bud. This happened to me last week. He'll be all right. I remember as a 5-year-old, I remember hearing that, but seeing your dad, leave like that, and then your mom has to leave too, and I'm stuck behind with my grandmother, and I remember watching them pull off and away, and just that whole scene. As a 5-year-old, you interpret it as scary, because mom and dad to you, for most of us, or as kids, or whoever your authority figures were you looked up to, they're like Superman to a Superwoman. If something happens to them, we feel very afraid, we feel very scared, and we start to deem that as scary. And that's what I did. I deemed everything that he went through that day, whether he was home alone, how he felt, his fears, the ambulance, just the whole situation, the symptoms he felt, I deemed all of that as bad and scary, and that was encoded in my mind. And from the ages of 0 to 7, sometimes 10, but the ages of 0 to 7 is where usually, for most people, where a lot of the initial traumatic event happens in their life that makes them afraid, where the anxiety really starts to manifest. There's a lot of things about genetics, and I think genetics, there is some truth in that. I think there is part of that. But to me, I think it's more of learned behaviors from our authority figures. I think a lot of it's more of behavior and habit, and going through that event like I did when I was a kid. That's really more what started mine. Because my sister grew up in the same house as me, but she just grew up in a more mature environment where she didn't fear the same things I did. So it can't be genetics from me, not in our house. It was passed down generational behavior. Because my dad learned his hypochondria from people above him who learned it from. It was just a never-ending cycle that got passed down. Luckily, it stopped with me, so my sister didn't have to go through it. But again, I deemed everything that day as bad. And so, when you're, so that happened at 5 years old. But when I'm like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, it didn't really bother me until 11 years old when I had my own incident. One day I was at football practice, and I just it was first day of conditioning. It was hot out, and I kind of overheated a little bit. Just got a little hot, and I kind of overreacted, right? And I got a little panicky. And a lot of how I was panicking, what I was panicking about in my mind, fearing that day, was what I saw happen to my dad at 5. And I talk about this recently with my recent episodes. But again, all that, right? And it led to bigger things. I remember that day at practice, I was afraid of how my teammates, I thought they were, they saw me kind of looking vulnerable. That made me feel kind of weak. It made me feel embarrassed, right? So that was another fear now on top of it. Another subsequent, fear thrown into my mix of anxiety. And see how all this kind of unfolds in this, that took off for me all the way till I was 21 years old. Until I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. I went and seek actual help. And so, but again, that's all what caused my anxiety. It wasn't what I was feeling in the moment. It wasn't about what caused my emotional states, what caused my fear. It wasn't about the symptoms. It wasn't about, what am I going to be okay and all this? No, it was all goes back to the root cause. And once I start to identify the root cause, like I said, be honest with myself, that's when I started to take off, because all the dots started to connect. And so I started to realize too, going back to what Dennis said now about decisions based on emotions, I didn't base once I figured all that out, and I started to do the reframing practices, and I started to do things in my day-to-day life to project safety, to build that relationship back with my body, my mind, that healthy relationship with my anxiety. Whatever emotions I was feeling, whatever I feel now, it just doesn't dictate what I do anymore. And I hope this all makes sense. And if you need more help, please message me or leave a comment below, and I would love to elaborate to help you more. Or you can message Janice as well. Um, but again, that's what it was for me. And I started to figure out, and once I started to figure out my emotions, like I said, don't have to dictate what I do, don't have to, because finding that root cause for me took some time. Like initially, I thought it was one thing, and then it led to the ultimate thing for me when I realized, and then it all made sense. But it wasn't until I allowed myself to let go a little bit, not get caught up in my emotions, and allow myself to be vulnerable in the moment with whatever I was feeling. Then I started to realize, okay, this is something deeper, and I know what it is. And I started to, be honest with myself, and I started to let it out. And then once I did that, I was really started to become freer, and I became really free. And so, now I face moments or challenges. Now I'm able to work through them much quicker and much easier, and I'm able to move on with my life. And so that's what it was for me. And I hope all this made sense today. I know I said a lot there, a mouthful. It's always good to go back and maybe rewind this, watch this again, listen to what I say again. Like, so if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. But I thought that was very key when I saw that yesterday. Decisions based on our emotions. And like I said, I can relate to that. And going back to real quick to what I said, a lot of times we react based off of, you know, how we're conditioned, how we condition ourselves. A lot of how I conditioned myself was, like I said, when I was younger, from my parents, my authority figures. I thought that's how, for a lot of people, that's how we think that's how we're supposed to respond to certain events. And like I said, at 5 years old, I deemed all that I saw that day as scary, but it really wasn't. It was a small thing. And he was having a panic attack. He was fine. But once I realized that, and you realize that all these things are conditioned, now we can start to implement new habits, new ways of responding to things, new ways of reacting to our. How do we respond? I don't like to say react. How do we respond at the moment to when we have a negative emotion or feeling or thought, intrusive thought? How do we respond differently? And so, going back to what I said earlier too about the two things that help me: a loving action and mindfulness in the moment. And so, I got a video here today. Like I said, my counselor at the time shared with me, and this really helped me. I learned this 2 years ago. And I actually learned this 3 days before I did my first episode of The Reel, and I started to implement it immediately, and it helped me right away. So, um, this is by Dr. Scott Symington. I'm gonna play this on the full screen, and I'm gonna go off. It's a 9-minute video, but please sit and watch. It's a really good illustration here of, you'll see it shows somebody how they go through the day and how they start to be fearful about an upcoming event they have come up. And you'll see here in this illustration, this person has or stick figure, whatever you want to call them, has a presentation coming up at work. They're very nervous about it. They're frantic about it. But it kind of shows you the tools and gives you kind of like an illustration of how to respond in the moment. How can we do things differently in a healthier manner, that we don't see things as fearful and we see things for what they really are. And you'll see here in turn for the stick figure or whatever in this the character in this illustration here, by the day they got to the presentation, they used those tools, and the presentation went great, and they started to feel a lot more confident and calmer, and just a lot more at peace. And so I'm gonna play this on the full screen. Then when this is done, we'll go to break, and then I'll come back and break down the film real quick on Evan Mobley. And yeah, so here we go. This is Dr. Scott Symington. I'll link this below as well if you want to watch it again. Let me put this on the full screen here. All right, let's get to it.
Hi, friendo. Oh, something got you down? I see. Well, like everything else on planet Earth, your thoughts and feelings need energy to keep going. Your reactions to those very thoughts and feelings can fuel discouraging internal experiences or cause them to disappear. Imagine your internal world. Everything you think, feel, see, and experience on the inside as a movie theater with 2 screens. The front screen is where you experience the present moment with life-giving thoughts, feelings, and images. It's where you live out the best version of yourself, friendo. When you're connected to that front screen, you have a general sense of inner contentment, don't you? However, off to the right, there is a side screen competing for your valuable attention. Oh, this is no ordinary movie screen, friendo. This is a horror picture, one with which you're not entirely unfamiliar, I'm afraid. This is where your fears and worries and unhealthy distractions randomly show up throughout the day. And when they do, your eyes reflexively swivel over to glance at the unsettling content, don't they? Now, friendo, if you fixate on the side screen, you'll give it energy, making those worries and anxious feelings even more intense, where it will be harder to focus on anything worthwhile. Fortunately, I'm here to help you, friendo. Now, this may come as a surprise, but if you find yourself gazing at that side screen, redirect your attention to the front screen and allow the anxious film to run in your peripheral vision. Accept the presence of those unsettling thoughts and feelings, but stay committed to focusing on that front screen. Hear me out, friendo. As your mind wanders back to the side screen, gently redirect it back to the front screen, and you'll be effectively depriving it of 2 primary energy sources: the spotlight of attention and internal resistance. At times, this is easier said than done. Ideally, friendo, you want to anchor yourself to the front screen anytime that pesky side screen presents a challenge. Let's try to be mindful, shall we? Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Intensely focus on the sights and sounds of your immediate environment. That's it, friendo. A predetermined healthy activity that effectively holds your attention should do the trick, just like the brisk walk you're taking. Go on, friendo, take a dip. That's it. Spend time doing what you love, like being creative. Before you know it, friendo, you'll be well on your way to that triumph.
Good God, man! Stop eating those. You're gonna blow up. No,
Well, it's the day of your big presentation. Now, friendo, A famous insect once said, all you need is love. We're clearly feeling the energy of that side screen this morning. So, I'd like to share another way to anchor yourself to that front screen. You can harness the anxious energy of that side screen and turn it into loving action. Go ahead, friendo. Let that car merge into the lane. Now that's loving behavior, friendo. Use that side screen as a springboard for positive, loving action. How kind and thoughtful, friendo. That's the power of loving behavior, friendo. Remember, friendo, there are two paths you can take here. Show them who you really are in the present moment. Go get 'em, friendo. So? Why, friendo, you did it! I just knew you had it in you. Well, friendo, you're well on your way to a better you. Congratulations. Just remember how we got here. Work on our special two-screen method and watch your life transform before your very eyes.
All right, so that's the video there. You can see the illustration. It's it's kind of a little quirky, but again, I think it's a good illustration about the loving action and mindfulness. And those are the two things that helped me there. And that video, which my counselor at the time showed me 2 years ago, and we kind of really practiced that when I started to implement that more in my day-to-day life, or especially in moments where I felt anxious, moments that in the past would basically cripple me. Um, and it just hold me back. I started to implement that practice more, and it started to free me more, and it started to unlock my life more. I started to be open to doing things that I would never have done, when my anxious days. And so, great video there. I'll link it below. Two Screen Method by Dr. Scott Symington. You can watch it again. When I come back, I'm gonna break down some Evan Mobley tape now, moving on to the Cavs, and we'll wrap up from there. So I'll be back in a minute.
It's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. A saying my dad used to always say was, man plans while God laughs. I had a plan for my life. Like, I was going to be, I'm talking about from as soon as I can remember my first thought, I'm going to be in the NFL. I'm going to be, a quarterback. Right. I'm going to, my life was made.
I'm going to have all this money. I'm going to get any girl I want. I'm going to have all these cars.
Yeah,
that's going to be good.
I'm talking Beyonce is going to be like, hey, what are you doing today? Then Rihanna tomorrow. Like, it was this plan I had for my life. And as I got older, obviously the plans got smaller, but I still continue to plan. something that I do now, and I would recommend everybody doing. Every single night when I pray, what I used to do was say, God, allow me to pass this test. God, allow me to, meet this girl. God, allow, this date to go well, this day to go well. When I go to sleep every single night, what I pray for is for God's will to be done. Because He obviously knows what He's doing. I don't.
Right.
Because if I knew what I was doing, I would be, I wouldn't be talking about Baker on the Browns. I'd be on the Browns right now. If I knew if I followed my plan, Beyonce would be hitting me up. She hasn't hit me up. I must have missed that call or something.
All right, she don't want some bake.
Right? She doesn't want the AMP producer. She has a billionaire husband or something.
Right.
It's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time. It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. From the moment I wake up, God is in control. So
all right, welcome back. Time to get in some Evan Mobley now. So last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers. We mute this here. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the Utah Jazz 129-113 in Utah. And Evan Mobley had a pretty good game. 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 9 of 14 from the field. Shot 2 threes, made ones, 50% from the three. And so Jared Allen as well had 21 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Shot the ball pretty well, 8 of 11. Let's see. Karis LeVert had a big night, 26 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. No Donovan Mitchell last night, so Karis really stepped up and played well. Sometimes on the road, especially in Utah in that altitude, they're not the best team this year. Utah, they're already eliminated from the playoffs, but they're already eliminated. But still want to get that win. They need that win right now to maintain the third spot, in my opinion. Possibly the second if Milwaukee falls. But you look too. The big thing that stood out to me last night, because the big topic right now amongst the Cavs, not just about the playoffs, how far can it go, but it's about Evan Mobley. You hear this a lot in local radio shows, local sports shows around here in Cleveland. What's his ceiling, what's his potential, and blah, 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 and all this. And it's a fair question. Because I think at times we want Mobley to be the superstar we know he's capable of being. It's just some people really wondering what's his real ceiling. Now this year, Evan Mobley is averaging 16 points, well, 15.9, 16 points and 9 rebounds. It's almost a double-double he's averaging, which is really good. Jared Allen this year also 16 points. He's averaging double-double, 16 and 10. And so Donovan leads the team with 26 points, almost 27. 26.8, you want to round at 27. Darius Garland, 17.8 points. And both Garland and Mitchell both have 6 assists each. So good balance there, I think, from both your backcourt and your front court. Like I said, I think at times what this team's missing is a true wing, a true 3, a guy that's about 6'8", that can play the 3 alongside the front court guys. I think when you have 2 smaller guards like that, you better have a big line up front from your 3, 4, and 5. And I think at times Max Strus, who's been our 3 this year when he was healthy, he's only 6'5", but he's kind of a one-dimensional guy. I like Max Strus, but he's just a sharpshooter. He's like a Mike Miller kind of guy, which is good. He's a really good player, and he was a great addition to the team. But, I think when I look at this Cavs team, and I get why everybody's saying we need Evan Mobley to kind of elevate his game, and how can they get him more involved in the offense? Well, that's great in theory. It's right. But how do we really get him involved in the offense? Because I feel like when I watch Evan Mobley at times in this offense, it just seems very stagnant. Sometimes I think the Cavs offense at times, they're just standing around looking at each other. There's not enough movement off the ball. And a lot of times Evan will catch the ball out in the perimeter, and it's either just a spot up 3. If it's not open, he's got to can it. He's got to dish it. Or he's just getting, shots on the short rolls, on dives to the baskets, putbacks. But I feel like sometimes we just give him the ball. A lot of times in our offense, we just too much one-on-one. And adding Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs was great for the Cavs because it elevated the team, obviously, and he's a great player. But I do think it did hinder Evan's development somewhat because Evan now had to turn into a guy, what his third year in his career now, or fourth year in his career, but going into his third year of his career, you got the superstar player. Now all of a sudden you got to stand out on the perimeter. Maybe it was the second year. I think it was the second year. Second or third year. I can't think off the top of my head. I know he was drafted in 21. So, yeah. So going into his second year now of his career, you got the superstar player next to you, and you just kind of standing around now. You got to watch him go one-on-one. And I think it's when you go back and watch that Knicks series last year, number one, they didn't have shooting and depth. But I think a lot of times, too, Donovan and Darius, just too much one-on-one, too much just stalling the ball, wasted possessions, jacking up fadeaway, bad shots. And I get Donovan's capable of hitting a lot of shots, but sometimes even if you make a good shot, doesn't mean it's a good offense. Doesn't mean it was a good shot. It might have went in, but it's not a habit you want to. Some of these shots we take sometimes are bad habits that can cost you in the playoffs, which like it did last year, in my opinion, somewhat. And I think it's hindered Evan's development because I think now you've turned Evan into a guy. He needs to be a 4-man who's 7 feet tall, who can really play the 5 in today's game. And you just want to stand on the perimeter and everybody's like, okay, he's shooting the 3. And I get he needs to make the 3. But I don't want Evan just to be a spot up shooter. I don't want him just shooting threes and then we'll give him the ball in the post here and there. I don't want to see that. I think you look at the team stats this year, or the player stats rather, and you look at the shots per game. If I can pull that up, I'll have to find it. But I just don't think that some of the opportunity. Okay, so here we go. Field goal attempts per game. Evan is 4th on the team in field goal attempts. So Donovan Mitchell shooting 19 shots a game. Darius Garland shooting 14 shots a game. LeVert shooting 12 a game. Then Mobley there at 11. Strus is shooting 10. Allen's shooting 10. Then you got Niang at 7. Okoro 7. Merrill 6. And then it just kind of goes down from there. But your leading shot guys obviously are the 3 guards, which, okay, those are your 3 best perimeter scorers. But I don't think, Darius at 19, almost 20, 19, it's actually 20 shots per game he's taking. And he's shooting 46%. You look at Evan with 11 shots per game, he's shooting 58%. I think in Darius, 14 shots per game, only shooting 44%, could be a little higher there. LeVert, 41% on 12 shots, that could be a little higher, a little more efficient there. I just think, again, that kind of tells you look at Darius and you look at LeVert, you look at how many shots Mitchell takes. I think sometimes we just go too much one-on-one. And we jack up bad shots. We just rely on these guards just to go to the top of the key and attack, which is good in a way. But I think that's what's hindered Mobley's development. He's only taken 11 shots a game. The guy off the bench is taking one more than him. I could argue that Evan Mobley should be actually second in this team in shots. I could argue that. I think if Mitchell should be your leading shot taker, obviously he's your best player on the team, best scorer, overall player. I could argue that Mobley should be taking more shots than Garland, or almost just around the same. Especially if he's shooting almost 60% on 11 shots. He's pretty efficient. I mean, he's pretty skilled enough big man, skilled enough player. He's got so many different capabilities he can unlock on offense. I don't think we've seen yet, just because it hasn't really been available. He's not able to really do it. It's not really a focal point of the offense. To me, I think Evan should be taking probably, if you look at some of the other guys, and you look at Chet Holmgren, for instance, let me pull that up. Chet Holmgren and Anthony Davis, we'll say. Let me go to OKC here. Look at a guy like Chet Holmgren, who's kind of a somewhat similar skill set in a way. Chet's a better shooter, obviously, than Evan, but kind of similar in skill set. Chet, he shoots 11 shots per game as well, but he's also averaging 16 points a game and 7 rebounds as well. So I think Chet's pretty similar in his way, although I think Chet should probably shoot more shots. Shea's taking 19, but Chet is also top 3 in the team in field goal attempts. Josh Giddey or Lou Dort's not shooting more than him. Jalen Williams is a really good player. He's a second for them. And you look at Anthony Davis' shot attempts. We look at the Lakers here. Pull this up. the Lakers, Anthony Davis is second for the Lakers in shot attempts. And so I bring up Chet Holmgren and Anthony Davis for a reason, because I think they're not that I wasn't surprised Chet actually shoots. I thought Chet shoot 13 shots per game, but he shoots 11. But again, he's top 3 in his team in shot attempts. Anthony Davis is second in his team in shot attempts. Now, most people watch probably say Chet. Definitely Anthony Davis is better than Evan Mobley right now, obviously. Although I think Evan can be just as good as Chet. I really do. I think maybe in a different way. I think Chet's better in some ways. He's a little more fluent and a better scorer in some ways. But I think there's nothing Evan can't do. I mean, he's starting to shoot the 3 ball better. He's starting to, expand his game more. I just think, how can we get him involved in the offense more? How can we get him more shots than 11 shots per game? And how can he should be number 2 or number 3 in his team in shot attempts per game? That means he's getting the ball more. But how do we get him the balls as a way? I don't think we just want to throw him the ball, obviously, and let him go one-on-one. So look at the film here from last night. And here he comes out here, opening game, nice pass, or opening possession of the game, nice pass. And that's a theme I want to get in here and into here. You're going to see this all night. I brought up how him and Allen last night dominated. Both had 21 points. It was a 2-man game. And that's my theme here. One of the ways I think Evan Mobley can unlock his game and also help Jared Allen is this 2-man game between him and Jared Allen. Those two finding each other, looking for each other, doing different sets, high lows, like just right here. This is a pass inside. Nice pass from Evan here. I think the way Evan can get the ball more is Jared Allen kind of doing some of the similar things Evan does in terms of the way they can play off of each other in a 2-man game. Evan there, nice job catching the ball on the duck in. You see here, nice defense from Evan. Colin Sexton drives in, swats it out with his left hand. We know how good he is defensively, but I think Evan and Jared, to me, can play more of this 2-man game. You see Evan here, spots in the corner. He's hitting that 3 now. Nice shot. Evan here catches on the wing. He drives in. Again, passing off, dishing, finding his other fellow big man in Allen. You see here, Evan does a nice job running the floor, which is very key for big man. You get 6 to 8 points a game, you just run the floor. But this is what I want to see more of right here. This is what I mean by 2-man game. So you see Evan here catch the ball. He throws it in the post here to Jared Allen. Now watch what Jared Allen does here. Markkanen's the guy. He's the weaker defender here out of these two, I believe. And so, and Markkanen, I think Markkanen played the small forward. He was here. But anyways, 7-footer. But again, we can work this side of the floor here. And this is exactly what they do. He's just going to come up here. It's going to be a DHO, dribble handoff to Evan. And look at this. I like this. It forces Markkanen. Markkanen moves up. Evan's got this clear lane here. And this is a 2-man game here between him and Allen. And you see Evan Mobley's skill set there, being able to spin off the defender. It's not just, let's throw the ball to Jared here and let Evan just stand out here and just watch. You know what I mean? Or just go screen off for Garland, which he could do. He could go screen over here, which is kind of predictable. I like this here, these 2-man game here they're playing. These two guys playing off of each other. And you see here, you look out on the court too, you got a shooter here, you got a shooter there in the corner, Struce, you got Merrill, and you got Garland here, ball handler and shooter. But again, I like this more of this. I think this is a good way to get Evan more opportunities. Having Jared Allen be more of that kind of guy, doing more of the dribble handoffs, having Jared Allen be more of the passer into the post to Evan, when he gets down low one-on-one. I think that the more these two learn how to play off of each other, I think the more opportunity Evan will get in the offense. Because then I'll foul on the drive down low. That. I'm going to show some other clips here I have of Chet Holmgren. And so some of the ways OKC is using him that I think the Cavs, I'd like to see Evan do more of, that I think he's definitely capable of doing. There, nice job on the pick and roll there. Nice block. And is he good defensively? Long arms. Now, this is what I'm talking about here. Now, I don't mind this possession here. He scored. Preferably, though, I'm not a big fan of constantly. This is what I think we've seen a lot of this year at times where I think it gets kind of wacky. Is he just throw the ball here and just say, okay, go one-on-one, Evan. But he's 7 feet tall, And I get he's skilled enough to dribble in, which is what he does here. You have the dunker here, and Jared Allen. But so he backs his man down, backs him down, he lays it up. Great. But imagine he's got a smaller guy on him. You could see that guy there, number 0. He's not as strong. He looks more like a forward, if you ask me. Small forward. That's his guarding Evan. I want to see more of this in the playoffs. Get him the ball down here on the block, especially if he's got a Julius Randle on him again, or a bigger guy, an actual 4 guarding him, a 5-man guarding him. You're not going to really catch the ball out here and just go one-on-one on the perimeter, especially when you got Allen out there. He's not a floor spacer. Get him the ball here, because now this guy has to make a decision. Let Evan take a dribble in. He's got a jump hook. He can drop step. He can fade away. He's got all his little moves down in the post he's shown. And allow these two to play 2-man game. Or I like to see Evan get more opportunities up here on the high post as well, or up here at the elbow. Let him go one-on-one up there and operate. And this guy, you just read off of this guy. If Jared Allen's guy cheats, all he's got to do is he's shown he's a good enough passer. Just allow it up to Jared. Again, more of the 2-man game. I don't want to see a lot of this one-on-one action in the playoffs, because I feel like it's just not high-quality offense, and this isn't a good possession for Evan if they do this all the time. I get it here. You got a smaller guy on him. In this game, it works. You're also up 13. You're on the road against Utah. But in the playoffs, I think there's different ways they can get him more involved in the offense long term, and make it easier for him. But he does a nice job there. Shows a skill set. Now, I really like this here with these two, how they're playing off each other. And I like how Evan does this. So Jared Allen does exactly what a big man should do, run right down the middle of the floor. Because now when the defense pushes you out, he can go out to the block over here, rather than a lot of guys try to run right to the block and the defense pushes them out, and now they're outside where they should be. But Evan does a nice job here of just slowly trailing, allowing this play to develop. He's trailing. Randall Levert sees him. It's just an easy 2 points here for Evan. And I like the spacing there, the communication between him and Allen. Allen knowing how to space out the floor. Very key. But again, showing his skill set, his athleticism. Nice job here. Staying patient, staying in the lane, getting the 2 points. Nice pass there. I see what Merrill's trying to do. But again, nice job. One thing I like about Evan, watching him, he is pretty good at finding the right positions on the floor. He's really good moving off the ball, but I think he could do a little bit more. You can see here, nice pass. I also think he's an underrated passer as well, which I think they could do more with that skill set. How can we get Evan the ball? How can we incorporate him in the offense more, right? I think they got to utilize his skill set more. As I said, put him in the high post. Allow him to be a passer. Allow him to be the playmaker. Allow him to initiate some of the offense. Allow him to go get him closer to the basket. I think we're trying to turn him into a small forward. That's just not what he is. That's just what I said recently on my show. I don't want Evan just to be a spot up. Okay, it's good he can shoot threes, but he can do more than that. And you look at some of these clips here from Chet Holmgren. So this is from last night against the 76ers. And I had this queued up, and I don't know why all of a sudden now it's not queued up. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Let me find my clip here. So last night, the Sixers... Okay, here we go. So this one here, this is from last night with Chet Holmgren. As you can see here, make sure the screen looks... Okay. So you can see here, this is last night. So he's going to go to the corner here, right? And this is a lot of what we've seen what Evan has been doing lately. We put him in the corner a lot because you have these guards that can attack, space out the floor. He's finding himself in the corner a lot. Well, what if he adds more of this to his game here, which I think Chet Holmgren does really well. So we know Chet can shoot the three. Evan's shown his ability to shoot the three now. And you can see what Chet does here. He catches it. Now the defense is starting to close out on because they know he could shoot it. Pump fake, one dribble pull up, mid-range, bang. So I like to see more of that kind of action from Evan Mobley. I think Evan has shown that periodically, and not a lot though. If he's going to start hitting that corner three now, which he's done more of, he needs to add that next step to his game now. Just the pump fake, because the defense is going to start closing out on you. Now, if he can pump fake just like that, one dribble pull up in the mid-range, kind of similar to what Chris Bosh used to do a little bit. And I think that's kind of the guy who I think Evan should model his game after. Who he reminds me of is Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh in Miami, especially when he was on the Heat earlier in his career, he was a monster as well, like 25-10. But when he was in Miami, though, he had to space out of Florida because he had LeBron and D Wade. He really started to elevate his. He was really good at using his playmaking abilities, pushing the ball on the open floor, finding the right play. He was a great defender, kind of like just like Evan. But also, once he started to hit that three more, that corner three, and then he started to add that pump fake too, and he started to draw fouls, started to make the one dribble pull ups, and he started to move off the ball a lot, really well too. Miami is a constant moving offense. I think that's what we need to do more of with Evan. And you see this other clip here of Chet Holmgren. OKC has done a really nice job with this kid. Um, and I think this is why they're such a really good team this year. This here is something I think we can do more with Evan in the early offense. And LeBron brought this up too on their podcast with JJ Redick, how this is hard to guard. And we pull it up here on the share screen. Is this it here? Okay, I just had it. Here we go. All right. So this one here, this is something I think the Cavs can incorporate more too. We could do this with Allen. You could do this could be a Coro. So Lou Dort here is going to go up and he's going to set a flare screen. See, they're coming up in transition. Lou Dort's going to go set a flare screen. A flare screen is when the guy goes to defense here and the guy he's screening for flares out, right? It's a flare screen. And so, but again, they're running a flare screen here in transition. They're going up half court. And before the ball is even set, cross half court, they're setting a flare screen for Chet. And it just allows Chet to catch it and just go downhill. And he just gets right to the basket. And you can see here how unstoppable. I mean, this is really hard to guard. It looks simple, but it's very tough for a defense. I mean, it's just that little off-ball movement, right? The little off-ball screen there, the little actions like this. This is something I think the Cavs could do more of with Evan Mobley. This could be Shai Gilgeous, could be Donovan Mitchell right here. So let's say this is Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. Let's say this is Jared Allen right here setting a screen, and which I would like because Jared Allen's going to have the big man on him, so you can bring him up, right? Bring him away from the basket. He can set a flare screen for Evan, allow Evan more of that two-man game. Like I said, imagine this is Jared. Imagine this is Evan. Chet could shoot here as well. He's a good enough shooter, but you see RJ Barrett, a smaller guy. They get the switch they want, which is why you could also do this with probably makes more sense to do this more with Strus because you get the switch on the three and Evan could drive in. So again, it's different ways you can create. They can find ways to create for Evan, just like OKC is doing with Chet Holmgren. I think they're doing a great job. And I think the Cavs can incorporate some of those similar things because they're kind of similar in skill set. And the last clip I have here of Chet, right here. And so you heard me talk about the way Evan can move off the ball more, find more easier baskets. This one here, if I can find the right clip, give me 1 second. I just had it queued up. Okay, here it is right here. All right. And for some reason, my computer did not queue up the stuff like I wanted to, but I'm going to find it in a second. But this clip I'm about to show here, you'll see Chet Holmgren out on the wing. And the way he cuts to the basket, just more off-ball movement, stuff like this. Let me find it. If I can't find it, I'll just say screw it. But let me see. Okay, now it wants to go. Okay, I'll forget about it. But again, those are ways I think the Cavs can find Evan to get him more easier baskets. I think just that two-man game between him and Allen, I think would be really key. They could really work on that more, which we saw more of last night. You saw how dominant they were as a team. I mean, they dominated OKC on the boards, or they won the rebound battle. They won the turnover battle, which is really key. That's the two things I look at: rebounds and turnovers, but also the block shots. They really dominated the interior, which is what they did not do against the Knicks. And I think a lot of it was because offensively, like I said, we're standing around looking one-on-one, just not really much going on. And defensively, we just look too small. We look tired. And if you're jacking up those shots like that, I'm trying to find right here on my computer. Give me 1 second. It's kind of, I don't know why. Sometimes I have like these tabs. I had this stuff queued up, the plays, and for some reason it just didn't. Okay, here it is right here. All right, now I got it. So this is another action I want to show real quick. This is an important one. This is actually one I was more excited about. So again, this is OKC with who is this? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the ball. Here's Chet Holmgren here. So you could see not that one, right here. So Shai Gilgeous is going to attack, right? And this is what I think Evan could do more of, especially when you have an attacking guard like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, especially with Donovan. You could see here. I want this set. All right. So right here. All right. So Shai's making his move. He's going to drive in. Now this guy here, Vucevic, I think that's his name. Nikola Vucevic, I think that's his name. He plays for the Bulls. He's guarding. He's the 5-man. He's on Chet. Chet's spot up right here on the wing. We know he can shoot the 3. Shai does a nice job here of attacking. This is guy we call the nail. This guy's on the nail. So this guy here, he's got to make a decision. He's going to leave. He can't leave. He has to defense has rules. So he has to close out the lane here. But this also, instead of Chet just standing here and spotting up, watch what Chet does. He's going to move off the ball. There's this wide open lane here because they know he can shoot. And this is what I think Evan's going to get more of. The more he hits the threes, this is where I think he could find more involvement in the offense just by simple off-ball movement, off-ball play, cutting. Chet here is going to move out the ball. He's going to lay it in. And so, again, that's what I think they could do more of with Evan. More of that 2-man game between him and Jared Allen. And I think more just those different little things that I showed what Chet Holmgren at OKC's doing. The flare screen, the cutting off the ball there, not just being so predictable. I think at times the Cavs, like I said, when they have their worst days, they look bad. It's too much one-on-one, and they look too predictable. And I think it doesn't help Evan Mobley's game, what we know, what he's capable of being, what we need him to be for this franchise moving forward, for them to, because the more Evan grows as a player and evolves and elevates his game, the better they'll be in the long run. The better they'll be, the further they'll go in the playoffs. So he's the key. And so that's just my opinion on it. That's my take on it. Why I think maybe they can get him the ball more, the ball differently, like I said, in different ways in the offensive flow. I think and him and Jared Allen, the more they play that 2-man game together and learn to feed off of each other, I think it really open up his game more. And so those are some of the things I see. But we'll see what happens. They play tonight on ESPN on the road in Phoenix, so that'll be fun to watch. I'll be watching that. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. Sorry for the delay there at the end. trying to get those clips squared away and queued up. So I appreciate you guys' patience and hanging in there with me and trying to, listen to what I was trying to explain there about Evan Mobley. But yeah, love all you guys. If you got any questions today about the most important point of the show today, which is the anxiety, which is the main purpose of my channel. That's what I do. That's I've dedicated my life to helping others going through the similar things that I went through. Please leave a comment below. You can message me as well. If you have any questions, you can message the anxiety guy as well. And like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. And yeah, love all you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Go.